Bledisloe Cup is back for 2021. It's Wallabies and All Blacks, Eden Park. The Wallabies managed to get across the ditch. They got an exemption, I think it was, to get here to New Zealand with the COVID lockdowns going on over there. There was a little bit of doubt about that, but thankfully the Wallabies are in New Zealand. They are lining up 2 tests back to back at Eden Park. It's not been the happiest of hunting grounds for any kind of overseas teams when visiting New Zealand to play the All Blacks anyway, but that's the mission the Wallabies guys have got ahead of them for this one. And for Ian Foster's boys, it's a chance to, take on a level of opposition arguably higher than what they've seen in Fiji and Tonga. Although I think we saw from at least the first game against Fiji, the All Blacks got a little bit of a bloody nose early and maybe got a few things to work on. So we'll see how things play out. I will put the teams in the descriptions and go over them very shortly. We'll look at some of the stats, the recent history between the teams, the predictions, and you guys can let me know your thoughts. It is on at 7:05 this Saturday. It is on at Eden Park, like I mentioned. The recent history between the two teams is mostly going the All Blacks' way. Of the last 5, the All Blacks have won 3, the Wallabies have won 1, and there has been 1 draw. Now that draw was in Wellington. It was 16-all. It was the first game, the equivalent game last year. And that one I think took the All Blacks a little bit by surprise. Then they bounced back with 2 pretty convincing wins over the Wallabies last year, 27-7 and 43-5, only to lose the final match at Suncorp, which was 24-22 to the Wallabies. So when you're looking at the points difference between the most recent kind of 5 games, it's pretty lopsided. It's 29-10 to the All Blacks. But as I mentioned, if you're looking at kind of success rates, the All Blacks are only at 3 out of 5 in terms of wins. You got to mention the Eden Park thing though. 1986. What were you doing in 1986? I was being a toddler. As the last time the Wallabies won at Eden Park, and if I'm not mistaken, it's been since the early 2000s since the Wallabies got a win on this side of the ditch against the All Blacks. Full stop. So, yeah, it's a tough job, but if you are going to win the Bledisloe, that is kind of the mission in front of you. For the All Blacks, they have named an interesting lineup. I don't know that anyone would have called this lineup exactly. From Ian Foster, Bauer, Taylor, and Laulala is the front row. Remember, Moody is back in the All Blacks squad, but he's still kind of recovering from injury. Likewise, Tuangafasi, so it's probably a bit early to see those guys. So it is Bauer on his 3rd cap, 4th cap. I think he's already got 3 in the recent games. So it'll be a big test for him coming up against a much more experienced Alan Alatoa. But he's got Taylor and Laulala next to him, so kind of a pretty experienced front row combo. If you looking at it from his point of view, he's got experienced guys with him. Retallick and Whitelock is a very experienced lock and duo. There's crazy stats about the All Blacks success rate with Brodie Retallick, and it is generally just a lot higher. When that guy plays, the All Blacks tend to play a lot better. There's some pretty notable defeats that the All Blacks have suffered in the past, generally when he's not playing. But it's good to see him back in New Zealand. Akira, Ioane, Dalton, Papalii, and I almost said Julian, Ardie, Savea. The loose forwards, now it's kind of inexperienced apart from Ardie. Ardie's got 50 caps, but Papalii's got 5, and Akira Ioane has got 4. So, and remember, one of those games he had to go off when, was it Tuangafasi got red carded? Like Akira had to go off after a really short time, so it wasn't even really kind of like a full cap. A cap is a cap, but it was kind of marginal minutes. So Dalton and Akira know each other pretty well from their time at the Blues, and they've got Ardie guiding them around. But I guess if you're looking at Michael Hooper on the opposite side, it's kind of a similar situation. 1 really experienced guy and 2 kind of single-digit caps guys. I'm not sure how many caps Harry Wilson's got, but it's not that many. Ardie at number 8 is definitely, if you listen to Ian Foster talking about in the press conferences, that's the position they see him going forward. I think a lot of us kind of like Ardie as a 7, but the fact of the matter is, with Sam Cane being the All Blacks captain, Ardie's going to need to find another spot, and you can't not play Ardie, so he has to play 8. He kind of himself talks about just wanting to play wherever the All Blacks want to play him, so what else is he supposed to say, right? So, we'll see how he goes. At number 8, a big game for Dalton Papalii. He's been really great in the Super Rugby season, getting through a heap of work on defence, getting a heap of turnovers. Not a heck of a lot with ball carrying, but I guess that's what Akira and Ardie are there for as well. Aaron Smith will be getting his 100th cap, so big congratulations to him. He has been a proper servant of the game here in New Zealand. He's alongside Richie, so that's a pretty established combination. Maybe we haven't seen them absolutely fire at 100% like we have seen Smith and Barrett do in the past, but more game time together will certainly push that relationship forward. Havili and ALB is the 12-13 combo, so I mean it's good to see Mo'unga paired up with not ALB but Havili, that Crusaders combo, so they know each other pretty well. And Richie Mo'unga actually talked a lot in the pre-match stuff about how happy he was for Havili to kind of be back in the All Blacks and for them to resume that partnership they have at Crusaders level. Rieko Ioane is on the left wing. It's a position he's not started in for quite some time. As far as I can remember, he's been shifted around as that kind of centre winger, and Ian Foster seems really happy with what he's seen from him. I still think he's a work in progress. They did say he's kind of getting a bit of a yard of pace back. They said 2019 he suffered a calf injury, and he's never quite got that full pace back, but Ian Foster seems to believe he's kind of back to his quickest, which will be an interesting one to see if he gets in a foot race with anybody. Sevu, Reece is there on the right wing, and Damien Mckenzie has a chance to, really put his foot down as well at fullback, because it's a very competitive position. You may be wondering, where's Will Jordan, because he's not on the bench. Ian Foster said he's got a bit of a niggle from the last game, and that he could play, but he's only just come back to full fitness. So it's one of those ones where if you've got other options available, you give Will Jordan that little bit of extra time. He could play if it was absolutely necessary, but given they've got numerous guys who can play on the outside backs, he's getting an extra week or two off. The bench has got Coles, Karl, Tunukuafe, Ta'aval, front row replacements, all relatively experienced at this point. Scott Barrett and Luke Jacobson are there as well, and they will certainly be looking to make a bit of impact. You'd say that's probably the best 3 All Blacks locks that you've got in the country, man. All very, very class players. So the fact that you can bring Scott Barrett off the bench speaks to the All Blacks' depth at the moment. And it's funny because when Whitelock and Retallick were overseas, and Barrett was injured for a while, we were looking pretty lacking, but we look a lot more solid with those guys there. Jacobson's been having a storming season as well. He does a bit of everything. He can get turnovers. He can be a big blockbusting ball carrier as well. So I will be interested to see who he comes on for when he does come on. Weber, Brodie Barrett, Brodie Retallick, Brodie Barrett and Geordie Barrett are the back replacements. So if you're a Barrett, essentially this week, you are on the bench. For the Wallabies, again, it's maybe a lineup that you didn't really expect. They have had a little bit of a disrupted build-up. Remember, the All Blacks don't have Shannon Frizzell because he's been suspended. I talked about him in the monthly vid the other day, but he's been suspended for a game, so he wasn't available for selection. That's one guy for the All Blacks, but the Wallabies have got 3 guys unavailable for selection. And the Rebels guys, Korobete for Almusili and Naisarani, broke the team's curfew, I think it was, maybe drinking up a wee bit too late, so those guys are all unavailable. And I think Korobete, since 2020, has started every game on the left wing, so it's going to be a very different story to see Marika not in the starting lineup, because he has just been such a stalwart for them. But front row is Slipper, Paenga-Amosa and Alaalatoa. Slipper was one of the guys who did the pre-match stuff as well, has talked about basically how it's not been a happy hunting ground at Eden Park, but he would love to be one of the guys that breaks that hoodoo, but he's been hoping that for the majority of his career, and he's a veteran, so he's kind of not holding his breath. But obviously he's talked up as guys, wanting to put their best foot forward. What else are you supposed to say if you're asked that kind of question? Swain is in the locks alongside Salakaia-Loto. Now, Darcy Swain's one of the guys whose stock seems to be rising with Dave Rennie. I think he started off in the squad, then he got a spot on the bench, then he got a start in that French campaign. So he's resuming that kind of starting role, which means Matt Phillip has to stay on the bench. And Phillip, prior to the French series, seemed to be one of the number 1 guys in Dave Rennie's estimation, but Swain has been really good as well. Valtini, Hooper and Wilson, like I mentioned, it's kind of that not hugely experienced back row. Similar to the All Blacks, you got the one hugely experienced guy, and then the 2 younger guys. Valtini could use a big game because I'm not sure he really exerted himself in the French series. He lost his spot to Swinton in that last game, but I think Swinton's got a bit of a niggle, so he needs to really physically, I think, get in the faces of the All Blacks guys. Harry Wilson, I think, likewise. He is a genuine number 8, which is one thing the All Blacks don't really seem to have in their squad. They insist on playing Ardie at 8 instead of 7. So We'll see what kind of his big ball carrying from the back of that scrum could do. But, I mean, Ardie defensively is very sound. So, not going to be an easy job for him. McDermott and Lolasio, again, that's a combo we've not seen a heck of a lot of. I think they started together in the third French game. But in terms of potential, these guys are both in their kind of early 20s. I think going forward, it's a combo we would probably like to see more of. McDermott, I think, he started off in the squad, then got the sub spot, and has kind of fought his way up to start. But remember, Nick White has kind of had a bit of a disrupted period as well, likewise James O'Connor. So going forward, will we see Dave Rennie revert to the older guys? We'll have to wait and see. Paisami and Ikitau is not the biggest midfield. Neither of those guys are kind of big units. Paisami, he's not a huge guy, but he really, speaking of guys who throw their body into it, he does. Like he's a pretty small guy in terms of like professional rugby players in 2021. But he hits really hard, and he doesn't seem to have any regard for his own safety. So he's not that big, but you wouldn't know it to see the way he plays. Ikitau is another guy who I think, like Swain, stocks are rising in the squad. I think unused sub start in that third French game. So big elevation for him. And it's an extra level test to be playing an inexperienced French side at home, to be playing the All Blacks at Eden Park. So that's going to be a big test for him up against ALB as well, who's an experienced campaigner. Callaway takes Korobedi Swat on the left wing. Pataya is back from injury. He's on the right wing. Remember, he's mainly been a centre under Dave Rennie, but he's on the wing. And Tom Banks continues there at fullback. So, yeah, I don't think either of these squads are the ones that you would have necessarily picked. But like I said, 3 Wallabies guys unavailable. One of the All Blacks guys is like unavailable who's fit. And then numerous guys who are kind of coming back from injury. Likewise, I mentioned James O'Connor. So the Wallabies have got their own guys who are under injury clouds. No Quade Cooper's pretty disappointing. But I don't think he was ever really a favourite to get a start, but he is in the squad, remember. Other guys on the bench, Ulysses Tupou and Bell. Tupou will look to make a huge impact when he comes on. He has done that in that French series, so we'll be looking for that. Philip McCrate. McCrate is an interesting one. I think he's slotted on the blind side before, even though, again, he's more of a 7, so we may see 2 7s on the field at one point, essentially, for the Aussies. They're not strangers to doing that when they used to play Pocock and Hooper together. Gordon, Samua, and Hodge round out the rest of the back. So it will be just an interesting one to see where Hodge slots in, because he covers essentially half the back line. I mentioned the recent records. I mentioned the average scoreline. In terms of the predictions, the All Blacks are huge favourites, man. Bookies have got the All Blacks by 22. When I looked it up yesterday, it may have changed. And the Rugby Forecast algorithm's got the All Blacks by 25. So big time favourites are the All Blacks. The weather here is pretty miserable today. I think it's supposed to be a bit of a mixed bag tomorrow, so we'll have to see how that one goes. The most recent game, I think, at Eden Park was the 27-7 game, so pretty comfortable. And then the previous Eden Park one was 36-0. So, again, at Eden Park, the All Blacks do seem to just find another gear. But anyway, happy days. All Blacks Wallabies. International rugby is on. I know it's been broadcast on Stan in Australia, Sky Sports here in New Zealand. I'm still not sure. People keep asking what's the deal with the UK. I haven't seen anything about the UK having a broadcaster. Flow Rugby in the States. I'm kind of half expecting this game to pop up on Rugby Pass kind of as a pay-per-view service, but I haven't seen anything official as yet. I would suggest, if you are looking for a way to watch it and you don't want to go dodgy, kind of semi-dodgy, you can go VPN. Stan Sports does like a 1-week free trial if that's one you want to test out. I haven't tried VPN with Sky Sports in New Zealand. I think VPN with Flow Rugby does work, but don't quote me on that one. But at least I was able to get to the sign-up screen using the VPN. So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Stan's got a really good library in terms of the stuff that they've got. Like, they've got the Lion series. They've got, all the Rugby Championship stuff. So, if you are looking for it, the Stan Sports one may be the best option. Try the VPN. I'll put a link to Express in the description. That's the one I use when I've ever had to resort to the VPN. And then, yeah, Stan Sports is probably your best bet. I know a few guys in various countries around the world have gone with that option and it's worked pretty well. But hopefully they get an official broadcaster sorted, so you don't need to worry about that anyway. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game. Oh, I should say Super Brew pool in the description as well if you want to chuck in your predictions for the Rugby Championship. That one will be getting underway in a few weeks' time. But anyway, you guys have any thoughts? And I'll talk to you soon. See you later.